Before we get to our episode, I want to take a moment to tell you about a platform that is revolutionizing the way SMP artists market their clinics, and best of all, you don't need to spend money on ads to use it. The platform is called HighLead, and it's a complete sales and marketing system created by an SMP artist that is guaranteed to generate more bookings for your clinic. HighLead helps you capture, nurture, and close more business with dozens of features, including your own website chat widget, a unified text message, phone, and email marketing system, a review management system, helpful automations, and so much more. And beyond that, HighLead's team gives you one-on-one sales and marketing training, step-by-step onboarding calls, and responsive support. If you're ready to fill your pipeline with quality SMP leads, check out HighLead right now at gohighlead.com. You can get access to a 20-minute overview video to see behind the scenes, or book a live one-on-one demo with the founder to get all your questions answered with absolutely no risk or obligations. Check out gohighlead.com today. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Scalp Solutions podcast. I'm your host, David Santiago, and today we have a special guest who is a trichologist and hair loss expert. He is known internationally as a leader in hair loss, hair care, laser, and low-level light device industry. He is also the president of US Trichology Institute and has been interviewed on many TV platforms to include Fox News, ABC, and CBS. So guys, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mr. William Blatter. How are you today, sir?
Excellent. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to jump on the podcast, Bill. So a couple episodes ago, I sparked a lot of questions after interviewing another fellow SMP artist who was a certified trichologist. And after I spoke about my training and how I've leveraged that in my business, I began to get a lot of inquiries about trichology training and what the hell trichology was just in general. So I wanted to go to the source, hence why we have you here, and hopefully we can, to our community, bring them a little more knowledge and insight on trichology and how they can bring that training to help them level up in their SMP clinics today.
Sure. Yeah. Trichology is a great industry and it fits in very well with SMP. One of the things, and we've worked with a lot of SMP artists and actually done a little training ourselves. SMP, you get all different types of people with hair loss. Now, some people are going to want SMP, but some people, as you know, aren't ready for that yet. Or when they find out, it's like, hey, I still got enough hair. Maybe I should keep it. So there's a great synergy between trichology and SMP. And trichology really is the study of hair loss and scalp issues. So in that, it's kind of a paramedical thing. It's not medical. You're not a doctor. So you can't claim you're a doctor or nurse or anything like that. But honestly, a lot of trichologists know more about hair loss than doctors. And matter of fact, one of our clinical training partners is the New York Presbyterian Columbia Medical Center. And they're the #4 rated hospital in the US by US News and World Report, and #1 hair loss hospital. And our scientific advisor, Angelina Christianoff, is one of the top 3 to 5 hair loss experts in the world. Matter of fact, she's just coming off of a couple 5-year, $1 million a year grants from the National Institute of Health. So in working with them, even one of their people, when I asked her, well, how much training did you get in hair loss? Well, she said, oh, I've had extensive since I've been here. I said, no, before you went to New York Presbyterian. And then, oh, well, yeah, about 3 hours. It's not what most dermatologists, study. They're into the skin. Most of the procedures that are covered are the skin. So although dermatologists are great and you can find some that are really good, most of them aren't going to spend an hour with you or half an hour like a trichologist is. Most of them are not interested in finding out all the other options that are out there because they're working through managed care, or they have their skin or their Botox or whatever else they're doing that's related to skin. So it's not so much that they don't care. It's one, they don't have the time. Number two, they're not reimbursed. And number three, it's just not what they do. That most of the options that are the best options for people for hair loss are not necessarily prescriptions. And that's what doctors do. They prescribe. So if you go to a dermatologist, they say, oh, go use Rogaine, or if you're a man, go use Propecia. And that's the extent of most dermatologists working with you, when that's not really the best solution for most people. So that's kind of where trichology has all come out of. Now, it's actually very interesting that trichology actually started in England in about 1905. Then it kind of went to Australia, and it's been in the US for many years, but it really started in the African-American community in the US for a number of reasons. Number one, because of all the hair loss, particularly from relaxers in the 70s and on, into the 80s, 90s, and even 2000s. And some of the first educators were African-American. So that's where the biggest community started. We actually got involved in trichology because as an expert in hair loss, I was speaking at Premier Orlando and America East and IBS and all these major trade shows all around the country and in Germany and Dubai, all around the world. And I kept having people come up to me and say, oh, geez, I went to go get a trichology certificate, education, and this guy never gave me my certificate. Oh, I got done with the course, and then where do I buy products? What do I do? How do I help someone? Oh, we don't do that. So I got involved because I kept getting tired of people saying, hey, I'm not getting what I need. And we were already training our people because with our products, and we've been around for 35 years, and September will be our 36 years, and we have over 1,000 locations. And I should say there's really two companies, and that's really something to understand. US Trichology Institute's been around for 8 years. I founded it, and it was written with some doctors, trichologists, naturopaths, a whole bunch of different people, all the content. And then the company's been around for 35 years is the Hair Loss Control Clinic that has multiple different brands and about 60 different private label products. So HLCC for a long time was around, and we did a lot of training for our people because we did kind of like a franchise without the franchise fee. So they would get the products, but they get a ton of training on hair loss. So we already had a lot of material on it, and I always enjoyed teaching. My mother was a teacher. So, if there was honestly more money and more recognition in the teaching world, I probably originally would have been a teacher. But that's where trichology came in perfect for me because I love helping people, been involved in a lot of charities, things like that for the homeless and kids with cancer and things like that. And also it was the teaching. So I was able to help people to do that. So trichology really bridges that gap between dermatology and cosmetology. And obviously SMP is the newer piece that's in there as well, because 70 to 80% of people actually ask their cosmetologist first about hair loss, not their doctor. So because of that, most of these cosmetologists were getting questions and they couldn't help people. And most cosmetologists are very empathetic people. They care about their clients. My wife is a cosmetologist, and she's got clients that she's had since she was 18. She's 52 now.
They're loyal.
Right, because if you're doing a good job for them, they stay with you. They tell you, great. She's had people tell them that they're going to kill themselves, they're going to kill their husband, their sex life, everything they tell about them. They can become friends. And the cosmetologist wanted to help their friends. And they couldn't help them with hair loss because, one, they didn't have the knowledge. And number two, they didn't have the products to do it. And when they did, they got stuck with things like Nioxin that does a few things, but it's not a total hair loss solution. And as soon as it was, supposed to be only for cosmetologists, next thing you know, it's in Walmart, Kmart, Amazon, eBay. And how can you make a living doing that? When the product sells for $40, retail, you buy it for $20 and it's $23.50 on Amazon. How much service can you get for $3.50? So that's kind of where we've helped people in the education about hair loss, and that's what US Trichology is all about, is the education on hair loss and scalp issues. But we tried to address everything we heard that people didn't like. Well, nothing about the products. I don't know what to do when I'm done. So we talk about all different products, all different types of DHT blockers, all different types of minoxidil and enhanced minoxidil, herbs, DHT blockers, lasers, shampoos, conditioners, scalp treatments, all different things, so that when somebody got done learning about hair loss, they actually knew how to help somebody, because taking a class and not knowing how to help someone afterwards is very frustrating. That's great. I know what kind of hair loss you have, but if I can't help you and the dermatologist isn't doing what you need, what good is that?
Yeah.
So
You
go
know,
ahead.
you brought something up, and my apologies, I didn't mean to cut you off. You brought something up very interesting to me, because within our community and our industry, and the majority of friends that I've known, I've experienced like their training, we're always promoting that if there's a client that is not a candidate for SMP, or if they have some sort of underlying scalp condition that we don't know how to identify with, we always say you need to find your local dermatologist. But now hearing that majority of dermatologists are not even equipped with the information that's really necessary, it's really eye-opening for me, because I've contributed to that myself, where I was like, well, listen, I don't know what that is from my level of training. Why don't you go to a dermatologist? And I've yet to have anyone come back with like a good, like, all right, well, here's what you need, this is what you got to take this, etc. Most of them just come back, say, oh, well, they told me minoxidil and recommended me to get PRP.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really what happens. And that's why there's such a big need for this. But there hasn't been a lot of trichologists. I mean, when we started our program, we actually were talking with another program about working with them. And then they decided that they were going to go it alone. And when that happened, I decided that I was going to get all the best information out there for people. Because a lot of the programs that were out there have been around for 20, 30 years. And most of them were all correspondence. I take this module, and then I take this module. I read this PDF, then I read this PDF. And most people don't like to read PDFs. And most cosmetologists and SMP people are more visual people, right? You're used to using your hands, looking at things. Whether you're SMP or cosmetology, most of them are visual.
Absolutely.
And just sitting there reading a PDF is pretty damn boring.
Yeah, death by PowerPoint is not the way to go.
No. So we addressed it with a lot of in-person classes. And we started with a 1-day class. Then we did a 2-day class. And that's the hair loss practitioner. Then we did the associate trichologist. And then finally, the full clinicals, which are 4 days that we do in conjunction with New York Presbyterian Columbia Medical Center. And that's really hands-on. And we used to be all in person, but then when COVID hit, fortunately, we already did online classes. So we already had video, PowerPoints, things like Quizlet, which is all sorts of games to learn to help you out with that. So we already had that. But then when COVID came, we pivoted and did live virtual. And that worked out better for the clients and for us, because training is expensive. And even more expensive is having to fly or drive someplace and then having to pay for the hotel, the meals, everything else. So our people are telling us they really wanted it virtual because they want to be able to do it on Sunday and Monday where they're not working.
Right.
Not lose a day on both sides and pay for hotels and everything else. That's very expensive. So the live virtuals worked out very well. So, and it gives us such diversity. I mean, we can have people from Ireland, Nigeria, Singapore, and 20 states in the same class. So it really gives us a diverse group that helps people with their training as well, because the questions are different. So we really enjoy that.
Now, Bill, how important do you think it would be for a scalp micropigmentation artist to have the basic understanding of trichology?
Well, I think it's very important because, every SMP person I've met, is a sincere, caring person. They really want to help their person. And everyone I've met wants to help them, whether they're an SMP candidate or not. And because SMP is still fairly new, a lot of people come to it and they're not the right candidate, or they're a partial candidate. They want some fill in, but they don't want to keep losing their hair. So if you're going to really give them the best help, why not help everybody? Whether you know to recommend or refer to a trichologist, if you just want to take an introductory course to get some basic more information so you know what to do with somebody to help them and refer them out, or if you want to take a 2, 3 day or a 4 day or all the classes, then you can actually build it into a business. And that's what we're finding is more and more people want to expand their business. They don't just want to do SMP. Somebody comes to them, you've already paid the money to market them. They're already there. And one of the things that's our philosophy is, this is a crazy industry, okay? We really feel it's our obligation to help anybody that walks through the door. And part of that is because there's too many people out there ripping people off, okay? Let's be honest, that's the industry. And we don't want to see that. So I tell my people, if you don't sell the person, you're doing a disservice, because the likelihood of them going off to someone else and getting ripped off is pretty good, because there's too many places out there that say, buy this pill, it's the greatest pill ever, it's going to regrow your hair. Okay, buy this laser, it's going to do everything you need. Well, the solution isn't that easy. A multi-therapeutic approach, by putting the best things together, are going to give you the best odds of, the best results. But that's not the easiest thing to sell on Amazon or eBay. It's sell this one shampoo and it's going to do everything. Sell this one pill. And that's one of the things that we've always looked at and said, hey, we want the best stuff. So if you look at, and I kind of take my USTI hat off and kind of go to the product side for a minute and talk about the XTC product line, which would be the line that your SMP people would be interested in, because it's a non-diverted line. It's a line that's only for professionals, so SMP, cosmetologists, people like that. And it's separate from the line we have for doctors.
Public. This is not something that's just open to the general public.
Absolutely. During COVID, we were calling our people and say, hey, Juan, Susie's calling us, give us a call so we can get your credit card so we can drop ship for you. I know you're closed, but we can still help you make money. Where all these other companies were, oh, let's take the orders. That's not what I'm about. That's not what the company is about. And since I'm the founder, I'm the owner and own 100%, I can run the company the way I believe, and that's to take care of people and to help people build businesses. And our philosophy is, if we educate you right and that you understand the education to help people, and we give you the best products and you grow someone's hair, everybody's going to win. The client wins because they get an honest person giving them a real evaluation and helping them out. If they're buying the product from you, then you're going to make money. And if you buy the product from us, you're going to make money. So that's really our philosophy, is to take an approach of finding out what someone's needs are, equipping the SMP artist or the cosmetologist with all of the needs they have so that they can really help somebody with it. And then part of it is doing consultation up front so you understand it, and giving them consultation guides and videos on that. And then doing checkups so you can follow through, so you can vary the treatment program over time. And that's really part of it, is being able to monitor the progress, because a lot of people will actually have hair growth, but they won't see it in the mirror. Because think of it, if your hair grows a half or a quarter of an inch a month at optimal, how much can you see? 1/30th of a quarter of an inch a day?
Not enough.
It's really tough.
Yeah.
So that's where doing checkups, having scopes that magnify the hair 50 and 200 times can really help. And this is where, being an SMP artist, learning this stuff, you can really help people. And one of the things I want to emphasize is that we work with everybody. And when I mean everybody, so I've had SMP artists say, well, geez, I really, I'm more of a tattoo person. I do SMP, that's my background. I don't know. Well, I have a woman who is a single mom mechanic in an apartment in Singapore, making good money and changing her life doing this, because she heard about trichology, found out the program, took the class online. And in Singapore, because expensive rent, it's acceptable to do consultations in your apartment. And she's added to her life and her money. So if I can teach a woman that speaks mostly Chinese and a little bit of English in Singapore, we can help the average SMP artist.
And Bill, is something that I feel like, and I've more than ever, I've been promoting it when I tell people, even when people reach out to me, new SMP artists, and they're like, have all these very entry level questions. And I tell them, listen, you are now in the hair loss industry. Like, you need this kind of information. And prior to even having you on, some guys would just think like, oh, someone's giving Dave money to say this, and it's like, no, like you said earlier, you're doing them a disservice by them coming here to your office, and you're not able to help them, because now they're just going to go down the road to someone that has absolutely no idea what they're doing, and probably make matters even worse. So this is why I wanted to stress, and to all the listeners, like, this is incredibly important to have tools like this, a trichology under your belt. And if you could, Bill, would you be able to give like insights, as a trichologist, would you be able to give insight into predicting how a patient's hair or scalp might change over time post SMP?
Sure. You can see phenomenal changes. Now, look, not everybody, you come in and you're bald, and you've lost your hair 20 years ago, you want SMP, okay?
Yeah.
It's not for everybody, but most people can stop their hair loss and regrow hair. Like, if you look at my head here, my hair is not perfect, but I actually, started with the products 30 years ago. So I was extremely thin here, and I had a bald spot in the back. So it's not perfect, but I feel very comfortable. I like my hair the way it is. I don't feel like I need a transplant or anything. I feel good. And that's what's important. So it's not a miracle for everybody, but almost everybody, if they do a full program, will stop their hair loss and regrow hair. As a matter of fact, if you look at a few of our products, the most innovative product we have now are these growth factors. And growth factors are basically, they're made like insulin. If you're familiar with insulin that diabetics take, basically what they are is they're exact duplicates of what's already in your body. So the way they make insulin is they take an E. coli bacteria, they rip out the guts, they keep a shell, and then they bioengineer it inside with proteins to create your insulin. Same thing with growth factors, exact duplicates of what's already in your body. And by doing that, it allows it to help your hair grow much faster, because in your body, you have growth factors about 137 nanograms per milliliter. Think 137 as like horsepower for like the epidural growth factor, one of the most common ones. So that's 137. If you do PRP and you go to a doctor and you pay $600 to $1,200 per session with a big needle they stick in your head and hurts. I've seen grown guys cry doing it because I've seen it done. And that's going to give you maybe 800 nanograms per milliliter, maybe 1,000 if you're lucky. Okay. Growth factors have 24,000. And if you get the professional, 30,000. So you're talking 60 times more that's in your body, 20 to 30 times more the PRP. And you can buy a bottle of growth factors for about $100. So it's a lot less expensive and a lot more powerful to do that. Matter of fact, we did a clinical study that we presented at the prestigious Dubai Dermatological Convention conference. And in that study, every man and woman in the study, 37 of them, regrew hair within 4 to 10 weeks, clinically significant hair growth. So again, it's not a miracle, but most people can stop their hair loss and regrow hair. And, if you have time at some point, if you want me to pull up some before and after pictures or stuff for people, we can actually do that, or we can make that available to your audience later on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I can actually upload those even at the end of the interview or during the interview as we move along. Now, the products that you're talking about, Bill, also these are the products that become available to you once you become a student of USTI, correct?
Actually, a lot of people think that, and I'm glad you mentioned that. No, anybody can buy them that's a cosmetologist, SMP, doctor, nurse, like that. So the two companies are definitely totally separate. You take the USTI courses, you don't have to buy a product. You buy the XTC products, you don't have to take the USTI courses. I keep that wall there because I want people to get what they pay for. If you come to take a US Trichology class, you're going to learn about all types of products, not just XTC. You're going to learn about all lasers, all laser combs, brushes, all different ones, not just the ones that XTC have. Now, yes, a lot of people that take the classes want to use what their educators are using and are being successful with. So a lot of people do that, but there is no requirement. And I have people that take the classes that have their own product line, or like I was talking with a woman yesterday that has a couple 100,000 Instagram followers. She has a scalp product that she has, but she wants to add these products with her scalp product to do that.
In
We
conjunction.
have like 60 companies that do their own private label. So they want to take their own brand, what they already have for styling products, and bring it into hair loss. So there's a lot of different ways to work it. But again, by being open and letting people do what they want to do and not having requirements and things like that, we can help as many people as possible.
Got it. So now me as an SMP artist who doesn't know anything, but I'm listening to this podcast and I'm interested in having these products and making them available to my clients. Is it just a purchase, or with that purchase, does it include like some sort of video, or maybe even like a sales video that shows us how we can go about, selling it to the clients and speaking about this knowledgeably?
There's a couple different ways. So let me kind of go through it. So first of all, if someone just wants to buy the products, they can buy the products. And there's marketing materials that goes with it. There's brochures. There's some videos, things like that. What most people do that become serious about it is they do what we call a retail salon or signature salon. And we used to charge a minimum of $10,000, at one point $25,000 just for that material, which was not near as much as it is today. Now, if you become a retail salon, basically buying $1,100 worth of products for $1,000, we give you 450 files of material. Every different combination of treatment program with the laser cap, the 80, the 272, the Theradome, the Capillus, just the products by themselves. We give you 30 hours of training videos, how to do a consultation, multiple videos. Which types of products do you use with this types of hair loss? How do I do a consultation? How do I do a checkup? How do I do the derma rolling? How do I do microneedling? And we also provide the derma needles and the microneedling stuff. Basically, every type of thing that you want, there's a video on. Plus, we do webinars on a basically quarterly basis now, about sometimes more, sometimes less. But those are, like I had, we have 30 hours worth of it. So, and then we keep updating them. Like there was a new product that came out, the new Growth Factors Plus, an advanced version. We did an hour and a half, 2-hour video on it. That's now available to everybody there. Plus, as part of USTI, or if you're a retail or signature salon, you get a weekly Q&A. And this was one of the things that we really wanted to do because really after the pandemic, I really saw how so many people were affected, particularly SMP artists and cosmetologists that had to close down. And so instead of having to buy a laser to get that material, I said, hey, buy $1,000, $1,100 product for $1,000, you get all this material. And one of the things we found was people, we gave some training, but they wanted more. So we recorded the videos, we do the webinars. And now every week there's a Q&A. So other than a couple times a year when we do our clinicals, and we're in clinicals, you can get questions answered on a weekly basis. So either myself or most often our chief educator does the Q&A. So every week, if you have questions on your clients or hair loss or products or whatever, you have a live person that's going to answer your questions. And if you send the questions in ahead of time, they'll make those the priority questions, so that there's always help and support. And there's general support and stuff available too. But we can't take every question every day on every patient.
Yeah.
But that's where, when they call in, hey, I've got a client that's got this issue and this, what do you recommend? How can how can we help it? Or what product should I use here? Or, geez, I took the 2-day class. What would I learn in the 3-day? Can you tell me? So all that kind of stuff is there. And that's what from the USTI standpoint, we have admissions counselors that go through all the different things. And they talk about, you can start with an introduction to trichology at a $5.99 class. That's a one-day class to get you the basics. Most people start with a 2-day class, which is part of the sequence to be a trichologist. That's called a hair loss practitioner. And then they go on to a 3-day associate trichologist and then a 4-day clinicals. But not everybody wants to do that. Some people, like you said, they just want an introduction or they just want a little bit. The 2-day kind of gets you enough materials that you can start doing consultations and checkups and helping people. And we also do individual coaching. That's another thing that we just started doing more of, so that sometimes people take a 2-day class, like, I'm just not quite ready to do a consultation. Our person will actually zoom in with their phone and do the consultation for them.
While the student is with the client.
Right, with students with the client. And most of the time, honestly, they're going to close them if they have a decent client in there. So what they made on closing them is going to pay more than they paid. Because a lot of people start off with 2 hours of training for $300, and that's enough for them to get, a startup to get them ready for the consultation and then to do a consultation with them. And once they actually see it, then they get comfortable, then they start making money. Because some people have that trepidation. It's like, I know this stuff, but geez, I'm not quite there. And that's where it is, whether it's after the 1-day, the 2-day, associate trichologist, wherever, and that little extra coaching comes in handy. Between that and the weekly Q&As, there's always help available so that you can help the clients and you can grow your business. Because that's really what we're about. I mean, I really see so many people and, that are tired of, being on their feet as cosmetologists. And SMP people haven't quite gotten to that age yet, but at some point, starting to get a little tired.
Backs are going to start going.
The backs and the hands, right? I mean, you do a lot of detailed work. And for the cosmetologists, as their bodies start to go, then they want an alternative way to make money, and they want to help those people that have been there for so many years. For the SMP artists, you have all these people coming in that they're not the right candidate, or they're not ready yet, or they want to keep the hair they have. So all those people can be helped.
Bill, at a minimum, right? An SMP artist, what at a minimum, what course do you think they should have? I mean, you guys have several. What would you recommend that every SMP artist should have?
Hey you guys, we are excited to share with you some very exciting news. We have created an online training platform that you can do in the palm of your hand.
With over 20 modules and nearly 80 lessons, this is the most comprehensive and detailed scalp micropigmentation course out there.
For those of you who can't travel here, maybe you're in other countries, you can now learn from your computer, you can sit at home, you can sit in a bus, and you can learn scalp micropigmentation with the greatest innovators in this industry.
Want to learn more? Click the link below.
What I would say is the minimum would be the 1-day class. That's an introduction to trichology and hair loss and products. That'll get you some basics. But if you want to add to your business and you want to make money, I would take the 2-day class, because the 1-day class is basically half of the 2-day class. It's kind of pulled out of there to give you enough to get you going and give you the basics. But it's kind of hard from that point for a lot of people to really, they don't learn enough about how to do the consultation and how to do the checkup to really get started. So if you really want to add this as another way to make money and to help all those other people that, are not SMP candidates or want more than SMP, then the 2-day hair loss practitioner class is, something that they can do.
Excellent. And how do you think that an SMP artist could leverage a trichology certification from USTI to enhance their business and their credibility?
Well, first of all, if they're going to come in to see you, what separates you from everybody else? Okay. So if you have a certification from the United States Trichology Institute on hair loss, And our courses are also certified by the American Medical AMCA, which is the top medical certification company that certifies phlebotomists, EKG techs, people like that for the state of New Jersey, California, a lot of the military, Army, Cool, things like that, Navy, recognize them as well. You have something that tells them you understand hair loss. So if you take and you have those certifications on the wall, if you have your lab coat with US Trichology on it and American Medical certification, I'm much more likely to come into somebody that has some certifications to talk to them about SMP or anything else than, oh, well, yeah, I do SMP. I do. That doesn't tell, that tells them they do SMP, but it doesn't say they understand the hair loss or whether you should have it. Now you've differentiated yourself from every other SMP artist because they're just an SMP artist. You're a hair loss practitioner or a hair loss specialist. You have certifications from the American Medical Certification Association, US Trichologist. Which artist would you go to?
Yeah.
And now it's more and more, it's starting to become competitive. It used to be as an SMP artist, if you were there, you got it. Now it's starting to become competitive, and that's it. And now, you were asking before how, you've been referring people to dermatologists. Well, in the past, there wasn't that many people that have had certifications. When we started 8 years ago, there was maybe 150, 200 people that had any sort of trichology certification in the US. In the last 8 years, we've educated alone over 2,000 students. So now there's a lot more opportunity out there. But there's 75, 100,000 towns in the US, and there's 2,000 people with trichologists. So you're still going to be pretty unique in your area. And people are starting to look at it. Even some of the major brands of hair loss and skin things are going, oh, this is our trichology brand.
Yeah, I've seen a lot more of that.
So now if you look for a trichologist, they're going to find you. Whether you sell them the hair loss or you sell them SMP, you have alternatives from it. And it's a way to bring them through the door that's unique and to differentiate yourself. And that's really what I believe, is that you've got to do this in a way that you guys can make money. So differentiating yourself and having a line of products that someone comes through the door and says, oh yeah, I want to buy this Hair Max laser band. It's a good product. We have it. We sell it sometimes for certain things. If somebody has hair loss down here and a cap won't get to it, we sell it to people. But they can also buy that on Amazon and eBay and in 4 easy payments on QVC. Okay. I've worked with them for almost 30 years. Matter of fact, Hair Max brought me in as a laser expert before they got their first FDA approval for an infomercial they had. So great guys, but they're not the solution for everybody. And if you're trying to make money, what's on QVC is pretty hard to beat. But we have brands that are not available. The XTC and the laser caps, which are the ultimate laser, are not available anywhere else. We don't even sell them direct ourselves so that they can make money. So if you're going to spend your time doing the work, learning the information, and meeting with the client, why not make some money and why not help them in an honest, direct way?
Yeah, absolutely. So now what if I decide, I don't want to take these courses. I don't want to pursue being a trichologist. How can trichologists and SMP artists work together to improve some of the industry standards and practices?
Well, I think one of those things is to start referring people to a trichologist or hair loss practitioner in your area. So get them someone that'll help them. And if they don't know anyone, they can go to the US Trichology website and use our map and find who's in the local area or who's the closest person to that. And because most people that have trichology certifications do not have SMP, although we are getting more people that are interested, that's a way for you to get referrals too, and to explain to them how SMP can help somebody. So when someone comes through the door that's not a candidate for them, but it is a candidate for SMP, who are they going to send it to? The person that they don't know or the one that just gave them a referral?
Referral.
So that's a great referral back and forth with people. So to build the business, to do that. And again, even if they don't want to take the education, they can still sell the products. I mean, I certainly recommend the education, but a lot of the times you know, education can never hurt. And the more you know, the more you understand. But the reality is that there's only so many programs to do it. And these programs work with people with beginning hair loss, and these ones are with more advanced hair loss. Now, there could be 10 different laser caps. You can sell them and stuff too, but the basic programs are not that difficult. So you can do it without it. You're much better equipped. You're more comfortable. You'll do a better job. But we've only done the trichology education for 8 years, and we had tons of people that made a lot of money all over the world helping people with hair loss. And matter of fact, we had two guys. One guy worked for Volvo, and the other guy worked for a hair replacement company and in Sweden. And they got our system, brought it up there. They bought an in-clinic laser, a laser you can sit in your clinic. And in their first year, they did 200 people at $6,000 a piece, $1.2 million their first year.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not telling the SMP artists are all going to do that. But what I'm saying is a guy that worked at Volvo and a guy that put hair systems on people together could do that. So again, you don't have to be an expert in hair loss to make money, but the more you know, the better you can do and the better you can serve your clients.
Now, what advice or guidance would you give an SMP artist that does, in fact, want to incorporate trichology into their practice?
Well, I would say that they should call and talk to one of our advisors, or they can go to ustrichology.org, and I'm sure you can add that to your site for people to do that. And they can watch some videos on there. I recommend they watch the testimonial videos because there's no better way to understand what someone's doing than do that. There's a reason we have tons of testimonial videos, because we take care of our clients, and that will help them understand it. But talking to admissions counselor can help them understand what's involved in the courses, what they can take, what they can do. And again, the nice thing is we have all the different ways to learn. So if you're an online person, you can take the online PowerPoint, you can watch a video of me teaching a class and another educator. And if that's the way you learn best, do that. If you learn with games, use the Quizlet, so you can learn to memorize the information before you take your online test. If you're more visual, you take the virtual live virtual class, where you can actually integrate and talk with all the other people there. You can ask all the questions, but you have the combination. So no matter how you learn, there's a way for you to do that. And again, this is where the admissions counselors can see what your goals are and match your goals with the right course to do that. And once you start, there's really almost no wrong way, because if you start with a one-day class, we give you 100% credit toward the two-day class, because all of the one-day class is incorporated to the two. So if you say, I just want to do an introduction, okay, I spend my $5.99, I take my introduction course, hey, I'm interested in this, I like it, that gets credited toward the two-day class. So there's not a wrong way to do it. You can start either way, and it really comes down to, am I exploring it or am I already serious? And by talking to admissions counselor and learning more about it, they can find out about that. And again, one of the things that's unique about US Trichology is that there's really nobody else that does the things we do when it comes to it. I've tried to make sure that this is the best course by far. And also because I believe eventually regulation will come into this like everything else. We want to have it ready and be the gold standard. So there's no other trichology course that works with a hospital like New York Presbyterian or certified by the American Medical Certification Association. We also have ongoing continuing education and continuing education credits, because that's what they do for cosmetology programs and EMTs and everybody else. So if you don't have it, they're not going to use you as the standard. We have the weekly one-on-one help, so you get ongoing help. Matter of fact, it's funny, one of our people worked for one of the larger trichology programs, not very large compared to us now, but one of the more prominent ones before that, and they're still around. She went and worked and did all the trichology and went and called up and said, hey, I've got a question. And they said, well, we don't answer questions. She went, what do you mean? I always go to my, and ask questions. I just, paid you a couple $1,000. And actually, in her case, she did the whole program. It was $5,000. She says, well, did you go and ask your person who taught you on your cosmetology stuff? She says, yeah, I'm out 35 years. And I still ask her questions. I said, well, we don't do it. Why? Because there's one receptionist and one trichologist, and that's all that is behind it. Not 20 or 30 people like we are. Not multiple, admissions counselors and educators and all the different things. And she actually ended up becoming an educator for us and took our classes because she never learned about products and needed to learn about products and didn't know what to do. She had great education. It wasn't bad, but she never had the in-person question and answer. She never had the hands-on, and she never had any training on hair loss. And she's an educator for us for many, many years.
Yeah, awesome.
And it's interesting, the difference. And that was really, I started talking about before, what I set up to do it was to make sure that we did everything the others didn't. We trained on products. It was flexible. No matter what kind of learner you were, you could do it. You had credibility. So not only did you get your certification, but you could get a lab patch so that when someone walks in, they see you not as a cosmetologist or an SMP person, which most people don't know the difference between a guy that does tattoos and a guy that does SMP. That's not credibility to a lot of people. But when you have a lab coat and certifications from the American Medical Certification and US Trichology, and you have a lab coat with those on it, you have credibility. We even have people that have been working with us. I'll tell you a short story. We have people out in South Dakota, and these guys, and this is actually quoting the woman. The woman last year got 132 new clients and has 180 renewing clients with our products. A couple of years ago, they went and took the hair loss practitioner class, even though they've been with us and private labeled for 15 years, because they wanted additional credibility. They're the #1 in their area. They have been for other long time, but they didn't want to be thought of as a cosmetologist. They wanted that certification. They wanted that lab. They're the leader in their area. They do phenomenal. They do several $1 million a year, but they wanted that credibility on top of who they already were to differentiate themselves. And if you can differentiate yourselves, then you're going to get more business.
Yeah, you're going to break through the competitive market. And the SMP industry is still kind of, making its way. It's becoming more and more of a household name within the hair loss industry. Do you believe if we take trichology and make that an industry standard, it can be a game changer for the SMP industry? And if so, how?
I think it can make a significant difference. I think it will give people a more professional look at SMP, because like I said, and you can tell me your experience, but what I've experienced from most of the SMP people I do is there's some people that come in, they don't care. They want SMP and that's fine. Other people come in very skeptical. They look at you like, the giant super tattooed, tattoo artists that they see on TV tattooing, bikers. They're not comfortable. But if you have that credibility behind you that differentiates it, I think it'll make a lot of people more comfortable with the idea of SMP and people that are SMP and look at them as professionals more than as a tattoo artist, which is what a lot of people think. Is that basically what you find?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And even for me, when I'm doing consultation, there's little things that I set up and I know, speaking of trichology, has absolutely separated, because I have some that are like, well, I know this other artist exists, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I never knew that you can look into my scalp. I whip out the dermoscope and give them a, quick little consult. And just with that alone, that's a sell right there for me. That I'm converting that right there alone, because I know that the guys around me, they're not even doing that. They're not even equipped with that knowledge. So just something as simple as just bringing out the dermoscope just to see what the scalp look, and just to show them, they've never even seen their scalp like that. That right there alone is a game changer for me.
Yeah, and it's an excellent point, because that's the thing. So you ask, what can an SMP artist do? If they basically get a scope and learn how to use a scope, not only can they do what you just said, but the scalp prep product that gets rid of the sebum and gets rid of the buildup. So any topical works better, but it also makes the scalp feel much better and gets rid of it. And you know, anytime you put a scope on someone's head and they see the sebum buildup and oh, I want that off my head.
They know
That's
that.
a $40 sale that
Right.
you're making 20 bucks on right then and there for every client that walks through your door.
So even if it's not
nothing
an
else.
SMP, even if you don't have an SMP, even if they're not a candidate for SMP, you still make a sale.
Exactly.
Now you have a product to refer to them. So yes, you did answer correctly. That's exactly what I was looking for. Because again, like I'm a big advocate for it, and I get it. You know, there are a lot of phenomenal SMP artists, but I get a lot of questions all the time because they don't know what it is that they're looking at when they see scalp. They don't know if it's dandruff. They don't know if it's folliculitis. They don't know if it's ringworm. They don't know if it's seborrheic dermatitis. And I tell them, I'm like, you are now in the hair loss industry. You're not just a tattoo artist that does impressions on the scalp. So it'll behoove you to get this knowledge because you're gonna need it, because you're gonna hurt someone, or you're gonna put a bad name out for your business, and you're gonna be terminated, and you're gonna have to close shop in 6 to 8 months because you don't know what you're doing.
Well, and it's a protection for the industry too, because the more professional that SMP people are, the less likely they are to get additional regulation. The less issues and complaints there are, the less issues. And that's right now in both SMP and trichology, it's an issue that people are getting scared of because, you know, in a lot of states, they're shutting down people doing derma rolling. You know, you can buy a derma roll and derma roll it yourself. And New York just cracked down on it for estheticians.
I was gonna say in New York, I think recently you're not allowed to do it anymore either.
Right. And what says that one person gets a bad result with SMP and goes to their legislator and says there needs to be more regulation on this. So the more professional you are, the more certifications you have, the better. And one of the other things I want to emphasize to the SMP people and the community is that, you know, we work with people on it. So what I mean by that is if you don't have a lot of money, you know, we work with PayPal, 6 months, no interest. We work with a firm. You can take a class for $55 and spread it out over time, or $112 a month for, you know, a hair loss practitioner program. If you don't want to do either of those, you can put $300 on a course and pay us $100 a month. So we work with people from a financial standpoint. And I know there's some SMP people that are making a ton of money. And there's other guys and women that are just starting out that it's a lot of money for. So we work with you from a financial standpoint. You know, I have some people that we're charging $50 a week. Now, is it a little bit of pain? Yeah, it is. But guess what? Those people are going to be able to help other people. So it's worth it to us, you know, and that's really our goal to do that. Yes, we're business. We want to make money like anybody else. But I honestly am at a point in my life where I'm very lucky. I have a nice house in Boaston Lake House. I'm more interested in helping people and growing this community than I am anything else, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really what, you know, we're about.
Excellent. Bill, before we wrap things up, can you just tell everyone one more time where they can get more information at USTI, or if they want to get in contact with you in regards to training or general any questions or the products?
Sure. The best way is to go to ustrichology.org, and you can go there, or to call the phone number 518-250-4083. That's 518-250-4083, or the ustrichology.org. And if they want to look at the XTC products, they can go to XTC Hair or XTC-hair.com. But I generally recommend they go to the US Trichology first, learn about the education, and go from there.
Excellent. And guys, we're going to be posting all that information on the description below of the video. So you can definitely just click on the link and it'll take you to either the USTI or to the products. And I just want to thank you one more time, Mr. Blatter, for jumping on the podcast and dropping some knowledge to our SMP community. Hopefully some of us are going to hear this and they're going to take advantage of that and realize like, well, you know what, I need this training because I don't want to be one of those guys that gets caught up. And not only that, from just a regular traditional business perspective, you want to have something under your belt that's going to help separate you from every other artist. And this is definitely going to be, it has absolutely helped me. And I wanted to have this because I didn't want anyone thinking like, no, Dave, you're lying. You don't have it. Like, you know, here's my certificate. Here's my certificate right here, guys. All right. I got it. I put it to use and it has helped me definitely a whole bunch. With that being said, guys, we're going to wrap up this podcast. Again, thank you, Bill, for jumping on, taking out some time from your busy schedule. Ladies and gentlemen, till the next time. Peace.
So feel me rain from behind. Black rain, peace through in the game. Black rain, through the struggles and the strain. Black rain, elements of mine. So feel the rain from behind. Black rain, peace through in the game. Black rain, through the struggles and the strain. Black rain, elements of mine. To feel the rain from behind. I'm sorta like a killer devil rebel. The getaway cars are the sounds of the bass and the treble. Cause I get into mine able and ready.